Hello, back again. Did you know that there is almost no Stradivari Guarneri Amati out there which is original? These makers from the past never made the instruments with the sound you hear, with the appearing how it looks like. At least for an expert like me, it's more than obvious. For you, there's a big difference. Today I want to explain you that. So that's a tiny issue which is a huge issue. It's from Baroque culture to modern music culture, and all instruments have been transformed. And I explain you today how this all happens. I'm Edgar Russ from Cremona, Italy, a violin maker, high-level violin making. If you're searching for the right instrument, I'm the right man. And today we sort out another issue about old masters from the 17th century. Stradivari was living in a time where the Baroque music was very important. And what happened in music was that music has been written in these years because it has changed. In that time, in that period of time, the orchestra was invented because they wanted to make it listen a little bit stronger. So the best way was to have more instruments. So Stradivari and all the other makers were happy violin makers because everybody wanted more instruments to tune up the volume of the music they were playing. Now, the instruments they were building, they didn't even know how an E string out of steel was look like. They all had gut strings, and the technique and the construction of the instrument was slightly different. The string was made in a different way, had less tension, and so they had a different concept of sound that was also inside. The bass bar was small, you cannot see it from outside, so 13, 14 centimeters long. Now they're like 27 centimeters long. And the major issue you can see on every antique instrument is on the scroll on the neck. The neck has been always mostly cut out, and I show you how. The neck was larger at that time, and when they cut it out, they take a saw like this. First they cut it like this, just away, and then they cut in to the scroll, and then they inserted a new neck, and they inserted the new neck because the neck was too short. Nowadays on the violin we have 13 centimeters, on the cello we have 28 centimeters. At that time that was all a little bit shorter, and the main issue was actually that these necks, nowadays they are inserted. So we cut into the ribs and we make a neck setting, putting it inside the neck because the strings out of steel are much stronger and you would risk that the neck comes out. At the time of Stradivari, these necks were just put it on the direction like this. Actually, at that time it was flat like this, glued on, first with glue. And then once it was glued on, they took some nails and they put it 2 nails up and 1 underneath. They put it these nails, they drilled tiny holes first a little bit in the upper block, then they put it these nails in the fire. When they were shiny red, you put them in and then you hammer it, and you wouldn't believe how these nails go into this very hard maple. They go in like butter. And so on original Stradivarius, inside you even see these dots about the neck angle. So let's take the rib here. These are the ribs. Upper part, C, lower part, and then the arching. Okay, and here we have the bridge. We take here this line. They inserted a neck on the same level, and it was rather thick like this, and then there was the scroll going on here, and on that they glued on it like a cone. Okay, it was pretty thick here and very narrow here, and they created this angle which goes then to the bridge in this way. If you go through the books, the violin reference books, you hardly can see it because there is only here a tiny part where you can maybe see it, and that's actually a huge difference. huge. Now there were some makers over there because Stradivari at that time was already very famous. So even after he passed away, 1800 something, when there was this period where they changed all the instruments on a Stradivari, even at that time, let's say 50 or 1820, when they transformed all these instruments, because the Baroque period finished around 1750, 1755, something like this. But imagine that this change of culture was not from one day. There was not an earthquake and then all instruments became modern. It was slowly going on. So for at least 100, 150 years, violin makers at that time had to change the neck, and that was very common, so they did it very often. The new style then is, here are the ribs, and here it is inserted like this. That's modern. And then comes the fingerboard glued on. And here you see this difference. Here that it is inserted 6, 7 millimeters, 8 millimeters maybe inside the body. On a high-priced instrument of Stradivari, of course, they took a little bit more time and they tried to match the wood as good as possible. So for you now, it's really difficult sometimes. So if you look at the pictures of an original Stradivari, that you can even see it, you hardly can see it. And there were several ways to change that neck. Some hatched even here a piece of wood like an L. You always had to put something here because this was much lower, it was flat, and then the neck angle was created with the fingerboard which they put it on. The fingerboard was not out of ebony like it is nowadays. It was made out of spruce, and then they put it on the flanks, they put it some maple, and in between just a thin layer of palisander, also ebony or woods like this, rather hard woods, and they decorated it. And usually Stradivari, I have even the templates over there. Usually the makers made the fingerboard and the tailpiece in the same style. So they made a little bit of decoration, some inlays, some mother of pearl, something like this. And the fingerboard was also much shorter. I would say about 2-3 centimeters shorter. And because of that shorter and the whole concept how the fingerboard finished, they never took off the fingerboard to varnish. They just varnished around it. So underneath the fingerboard, there was no varnish on the top. For you, this is important to look, and we go through now a few books and I show you sometimes on one side you don't see it, and on the other side, when you look at it, then you see, oh, there's a line, this is a different piece of wood. This is the book of Joost Teune about Stradivari. Here, this is the violin, the 1703 Dankla, and you can see it then here, okay? That you can see on one side, you see it a little bit less good, on the other side, you see it very good. Just let's take by chance another one. So this here is, let's say, an early one, 1699, La Fall. Here I show you this one because it's typical that the scroll is very flat, no flames, and then you see the neck, how it is nicely flamed, okay? And then when you look very careful, then you see these joints. Usually the best makers in the world are remaking this neck setting. And here we have the Medicea from 1690 from Stradivari, a big viola, which is an interesting instrument because it is completely original and has never been changed. Looks even like a modern instrument, but you have even the tailpiece and the neck, the bridge. I'm not so sure that is original, but it's an interesting instrument, a very interesting instrument. And you can see here also from the side, very nice how the neck is not glued inside the rib but on the ribs, yeah. And then you see that they adjusted the neck angle by gluing a small piece which is glued in, but usually in the beginning it wasn't like that. I hope I gave it very, very short, this explanation. This is a crucial part and is important to know. Another small ingredient which I just want to point out is the bridge was also Baroque bridge. Stradivari decorated them, and later on when the neck angle was different, they made it all with a new bridge. So it was all transformed, so Stradivari would not recognize the sound of his instruments nowadays, how they sound today, and what we perceive as the best sounding violins, okay? Just good to know, right? Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.